Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, in many ways, is kind of like the anti-Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. If you've been with this channel long enough, then you know I'm a huge Marvel vs. Capcom fan, so I had a lot of opinions about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, many of them negative, and I gotta give this game credit. For almost every single thing that I had a complaint about in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, this game does that right. Like the roster size. This game actually has a really darn good roster, and it's not just the standards, it's not just the basic Marvel characters you would expect to find in here. No, there's actually a lot of variety. There's a lot of really big stars, and then there's a lot of really small, obscure characters who only the really big comic book fans would love. That's what you need when you put together a comic book style roster. I love the characters that they chose for this. I look at this roster and I say, damn man, if you just include Dr. Doom in there, this would be the Marvel side of a Marvel vs. Capcom game. This is exactly what I want from that. And I also complained a lot about the graphics and the character designs in Infinite. This game has a wonderful art style. Every single character has that exact right level of cell shading to them. They've got these strong angular lines that give them really defined features. They've all got that perfect level of bright colors that make them stand out and pop off the screen, just like you're reading a giant splash page of a comic book when all these characters show up. And it's not just the design of the characters in the initial roster, but all the villains that pop up here, all the obscure side characters who pop up in here. This game went above and beyond when it came to giving the audience that it was aimed at the fan service that they were asking for. It came in here and went, okay, do you want us to go to Wakanda? We're going to go to Wakanda. And we're not just going to go to Wakanda, but we're going to talk about the necropolis in there. We're going to talk about the Tomb of the Kings. Do you want us to go and visit Shadowland and have to fight all the hand minions in there? Oh, we're going to fight as many hand minions as you can think of. I remember when I was on the X-Men stage and we were exploring the mansion, I was looking at this going, wow, it actually kind of feels like I'm running around the mansion right now. It's not just the exact same hall over and over and over again. This is one of the best interpretations of the X-Men's mansion that I have seen in a video game. Granted, we haven't seen that in a video game in well over a decade, so every single game that I could possibly compare it to is really outdated at this point. However, it was still nice. I did have to still stop and go, oh, this is actually kind of impressive how they were able to design this level based around the X-Men. And this game also throws in a ton of replayability because there are so many little secret corridors, so many treasures to unlock in every single stage, and then there are trials that you can unlock on every single stage or by achieving something a certain number of times. And when you unlock those trials, you have to go and you play through them, and every single trial has many different objectives that you can meet in that trial to get different rewards. And that can lead into the upgrade system, because if you want to upgrade these characters, there's so much that you can customize about them. There's so many little gems that you can get to power up your characters, but then there's also a giant grid where you can use your experience points and your currency to fill out all these different stat buffs. And as I said, you can get all these by doing the trials, but every single time that you achieve a trial, it will also get you this point, and when you get enough of those points, you unlock additional costumes for these characters. Yeah, the amount of just stuff that they gave you to do in this game is impressive. I was really stunned by how much work they put in here and how hard they tried to make this a game where there was a ton of replayability, where they just wanted to motivate you to keep playing this over and over and over again. And I'm honestly just impressed. I really do have to come in here and applaud this game. As I said, this is kind of the anti-Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Tons of replayability, looks great, wonderful roster, a ton of fan service in there. I was impressed with all that. However, that comparison goes both ways. Because if you remember our review for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, what was the thing that I liked in that game? The gameplay. I said that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite actually had amazing gameplay, some of the best in the entire series. You know what the number one problem in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is? The gameplay. Yes, remember all that stuff that I just applaud this game for? None of it really means anything to me if the gameplay isn't good, and I gotta be honest with you, I think this gameplay kinda stinks. It really does, and I complain about this online, and I got a couple of people saying, well, I guess it can be kind of repetitive. That's not my complaint. I understand what people mean when they say, okay, this game feels repetitive. What they mean is that the combat with all these enemies on the screen pretty much just boils down to light punch, light punch, light punch, heavy punch. Light punch, light punch, light punch, heavy punch. Oh, I have enough now to do one of my super moves. Super move, light punch, light punch, light punch, heavy punch. I can do a team up super move. Great, that's done. Light punch, light punch, light punch, heavy punch. And don't get me wrong, that is a problem, and I will talk about that more, but I never actually found it to be repetitive. I'm not going to come in here and call that repetitive because, yes, you do actually have a ton of super moves in there that actually do spice the combat up. One of the problems with that is, though, if you're not doing a super move, you're really doing almost no damage. I can have these really big, powerful heroes going in there and just punching away at these weak little minions, and it does almost no damage. Unless you are doing your big super moves, you might as well just not be doing anything. Your basic attacks are really only there to charge up your super meter. And in all honesty, the super moves don't even feel like they're doing enough damage. In order to do the real damage, you need to do the team up moves. However, in order to do the team up moves, you have to be standing close to one of your other teammates. Here's the big problem with that, and it's my biggest frustration with the combat in here. The stun damage and the knockback damage. So often, your characters will be stunned by just a brush of fresh air. It could be a feather just hitting them in the face, they are stunned there, and now you are just wide open to all the other opponents who are going to come in there and also keep stunning you, or they're just gonna knock your ass flying across the screen. Just one punch from them, and you go flying away from where you were. You get knocked down onto the ground. So if you want to do a team up move, all right, I've got that guy, he's right next to me, we're all lined up to do this thing. Nope, they just got punched halfway across the screen by some weak little minion. Okay, well, they're back up now, so they're over here, so that way they can do the team up move with me, and nope, now we're both being stunned because we got hit in the back of the head, so now we have to wait for these 10 opponents to just take their turn punching us. Oh, one of my teammates has now been knocked out. Well, if they get knocked out, I can revive them by going over them and just holding down the A button and waiting for that to fill up, and nope, I got hit while I'm trying to do that, so I got knocked halfway across the screen again, and every single time that you get knocked down, you're going to hear the exact same scream from your character, and oh my god, that got so old so quick. I was begging for a way to turn that sound effect off. I love Captain Marvel, and I was looking forward to playing as her in this game, but after I heard the scream that she makes when she gets knocked to the ground for the 20th time on the same level, I had to retire her. I had to say, I'm sorry, I'm not coming back to this character ever again. I cannot put up with hearing that over and over and over again. So I don't agree with people when they call this combat repetitive. I call this combat frustrating. But luckily, there are things to do on every single level aside from just getting to combat. There are objectives that you have to do on every single level that are different than just beating up the same random minions over and over and over again. Problem is, I find all of these additional objectives to be really frustrating as well. I didn't enjoy any of them. And again, I do have to applaud the game in one way or another that they didn't just make every single level punch a bunch of bad guys. But there came a point where I was like, okay, I don't really enjoy punching the bad guys, but this is worse. I would trade this to just go back to punching the bad guys, which I remind you, I'm also not enjoying. For example, in one of the early stages, you have to escape the Raft, this big supervillain prison, and you have to go into rooms where it takes this top-down view, and you have to unlock electric gates, and that locks other electric gates. So basically, you just have to flip a bunch of switches until you figure out the correct order in order to get through these gates. And they're not challenging, they're just time-consuming. It's not like there's any real sense of dread while you're doing this. It's not like you have a ticking time bomb going down, but it's also not like it's hard in any way, shape, or form. It's not like anybody's coming in there and trying to fight you while you're doing this. You really just have to go flip switch, go into this room, flip switch, go into this room, flip switch. Now go back to the first room, flip that switch, go into this room, flip switch. It's really just a thing to do. And don't give me a thing to do just to give me a thing to do. Give me a thing to do because it's fun. And this isn't fun. It's just something in here so that way the entire level isn't just punching bad guys. But then there are other moments in here where you do have to do things like this while you're punching bad guys, and that's even worse. Like in the Avengers Tower, you have to fight off these robots that are attacking you, but you can't defeat the robots. In order to defeat them, you have to shut them down, and to shut them down, you have to go over to this big board and basically just hold down the A button and then just wait. You just wait for the big old bar to fill up around your A button, and that shuts them off if you can get fully filled up. Problem is, as I said, you're being attacked while this is happening. If you get hit by one of the opponents, you're probably just going to go flying right across the screen. You're going to get knocked on your butt. Not every single blast will do it. You can take about 2-3 hits before you get knocked down, but then by the time that next hit comes around, bam, you're knocked away. Your character's going to let out the exact same scream you've heard them make several times already this same level, and you gotta get back up there. You gotta start charging up that A button all over again. Yeah, it's not fun in any way, shape, or form. It's just frustrating every single time that I had to do this. If they want to make this combat feel more fun, then they need to power up these characters a lot. They need to make it feel like, okay, I'm this character with all these superpowers going in there and taking out all these minions. Instead, it just feels like a war of attrition. It just feels like, well, can my character whittle down this big, huge number of characters before they whittle down my health bar, which isn't that hard considering that one hit from even just a random minion towards the end of this game can take off a third of my health. These characters are also way underpowered. Yeah, that's another thing. When you're playing through a game like this where your characters have to level up as they play through the game, you would expect that you would level up at about the same rate that this game wants you to level up. I mean, it seems like that's such common sense, I don't even have to explain that. But every single time that I got to a brand new level, they would introduce a brand new character on that level, and that character would be at the level my characters were supposed to be at for that level, and they'd always be like 2, 3, 4 levels ahead of where I was. And I kept thinking, I stopped and took out every single opponent. I stopped and did trials in between every single one of these levels, and I'm still not up to the level that they want me to be at when I am playing through this game. And I would like to remind you, you only level up the characters you play as. There's like 30 some odd Marvel characters in here, and you only level up the 4 that you are playing as, meaning if you decide, okay, I want to stop, I want to go, I want to change up my roster, I want to get these new characters in here, I want to play around with them some, you're going to have a bunch of massively underpowered characters going in there. How is that fun? How is it fun to have a game where you want to level up all these characters, so your options are to either get your ass kicked or to go back through halfway through the game and just replay the levels in the game? As I said, it's good to have replayability. It's not good to make replayability halfway through the game mandatory in order to progress through the rest of the game. Now, I did start having some fun towards the end of this game because I was able to find this one power-up thing that increased my character's strength by 500 points. Yeah, it increased it by a ton. It super powered up my character, and then I was like, oh, this actually feels like it should. When I punch the opponent, I can actually see their life bar going down to a satisfactory amount. To an amount that makes me say, okay, that actually makes my character feel like they're doing some damage. But I shouldn't need one of the best power-ups in the entire game to feel average. I shouldn't have to go back through and replay through levels and replay through trials, powering up my characters, and then get a super power boost in order to go, yeah, this is about right now. No. When I do all that extra work and I find that special item that powers my character up that much, I should feel unstoppable. I should feel rewarded for doing all that work. Instead, I don't feel rewarded. I feel like I just hit the bare minimum. Also, I applaud this game a lot for the presentation. However, part of presentation is also the writing. This game has awful writing. The writing in this thing is pathetic. I really hate being that mean on something like this, but oh, dear Hosanna, I had to stop at times and go, wow, that was an actual line of dialogue that someone wrote. I love Spider-Man. I didn't use Spider-Man at all because Spider-Man's quips in this game, ooh, I wish they had just patched him out of this entire game. I wanted nothing to do with that character in this entire game. And a lot of the conversations, a lot of the information, a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the stuff that they convey in here, it's really just the bare minimum for these characters. It really is just coming in here and going, here's this bit of information, moving on to the next thing. Just really very lacking in personality for these characters. And whenever you do get personality from them, again, it's kind of the bare minimum. There's no real depth to these characters. And I'm not looking for some big three-dimensional story arc with them, but you gotta give me something. You can't just give me, oh, it's this character, so he's this thing. That's what he's gonna be throughout this entire game. You gotta give me at least something in here. And again, they kind of just skim over incredibly important stuff in this story. I'll go ahead and I'm going to give you like one tiny little spoiler thing in here, but I don't even consider it a spoiler because it'd be a spoiler if they tried to hide it. But instead, the moment this character shows up, they just go, oh, it's this guy. But you meet Thane, who is this Inhuman, and he is also the son of Thanos, the big villain who's trying to get all the Infinity Stones. Now it feels like that would be an important moment in the game when they reveal that. When all these characters find that out, this guy who you're working beside, he's the son of Thanos, and oh my goodness, what exactly could that mean? Kinda nothing, because he pops up and just goes, ah, yes, well, I came to them to escape my father. Oh, your father, huh? Yes, my father Thanos. Have you heard of him? I think we have heard of Thanos. Yeah, it's delivered exactly like that, and then they just move on from that. That's pretty much how this entire story is. This entire story is simply, we have to track down the Infinity Stones. Let's go to this place. Found one. Go to this place. Found one. Found this piece of information here. Moving on to the next thing. Going over to this. Now this character's here for no reason. Cool. That had nothing to do with anything. Moving on to the next thing. Yeah, it is really just an excuse to go around and punch things with these characters that you like. And as I said, I didn't really like the way that any of these characters were written, and I really didn't like punching anything with them. However, when it comes to my score, when it comes to my overall grade, I'm going to give it a 6.5. And you might say, 6.5, that's still above the 50% mark. That's still in the positives, even if it's not by much. If you didn't enjoy playing this, why is it getting that kind of a score? It's because I do have to stop and I do have to recognize, yeah, man, they put a lot of work into this thing. They really did. They might not have put it into the areas that I wanted them to put it, but this game looks nice. These characters have good designs. There is a lot to this game. There are many levels and many different locations and many different types of enemies in here. And also, there's tons of replayability. Granted, I hated that the replayability was forced on you if you wanted to keep up with the pace that this story is going at. But if you are enjoying this game, there's tons of replayability. There's tons of unlockables. There's tons of secrets to find in here. If you look at every single thing that this game provides you on paper, this looks like an amazing game. This looks like everything that you could want from this game. However, yeah, it doesn't function well. This is a really nice looking car that someone put a lot of time into designing, but then you start it up and it just kind of sputters and it just kind of like jerks back and forth. The transmission isn't really up to date. Yeah, that's kind of what this game is. It is something that they did put a lot of time into. There was some love behind this. They wanted this thing to be good, but they kind of screwed up the most important part of it all. So that's why I can't go above a 6.5. But again, if I look at this thing on paper and I look at everything that it provides you with, I have to stop and applaud that. And I know that this game, it is mostly kind of meant to be a party game for big comic book fans. It's meant to be here for all the people who want to point at this thing and go, oh, it's this thing, I know that thing, that's good. Then they turn to the person who also knows that thing and say, we both know this thing, isn't that great? That's what this game is here for, and I think for a lot of people out there, it will do that. However, listen man, I got a movie this summer where I saw Spider-Man carrying the Infinity Gauntlet, riding on Thor's hammer, and then he handed it off to Captain Marvel, and there was a big battle with Thanos, and I got like Giant Man popping out of the ground, and I got Hulk going in there and doing this, and Thor doing that, and Iron Man doing this. Yeah, man, I don't need to come in here anymore and just go, oh, it's that thing I know. I'm now at that point where it's like, okay, it's nice that's that thing I know. Is it good? Is that, like, did you take the thing I know and make it good? I no longer am satisfied with just simply knowing a thing. But if you are part of that audience who is just really happy to see stuff that you know, hey man, this'll do it for you. This'll do it. And again, there's a lot to do in here. So I will give it that. You know what? I'm bumping it down to a 6. Wow, I just kind of talked myself out of that half a point. I'm going to give this a 6. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this in the comments down below. You can also check out some of the other quick looks that we have done on this channel by clicking on the card that's popping up right now, or check out some of our other videos, which will also be popping up there. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come in next time. Bye.
Don't happen to know anyone up in that fancy castle who can help us, do you?
The Queen of Hell has many powers, Rodent. Helping others is not one of them.